They built their careers on muscle, on power, on the illusion of perfection. But what if that illusion is eating Hollywood alive? Every perfect body you see on screen hides something ugly: chemical shortcuts, brutal training, sleepless nights, and silence. For decades, studios have sold us the myth of the superhuman. They turn the human body into a product, engineered, enhanced, edited until even the actors behind it can't keep up. The truth about Hollywood's obsession with perfection isn't just disturbing, it's destructive. And what happens next is far more unbelievable than you think. Long before superhero franchises and billion-dollar gyms, Hollywood's idea of perfection was forged in iron. The 1980s gave us something new, the era where muscle was the story. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone didn't just play strong men, they were the definition of strength. Their bodies became box office guarantees. Studios realized you could sell a physique the same way you sell a franchise. But behind the posters and protein slogans, something darker was already brewing. Arnold would later admit that in his bodybuilding days, steroids were part of the formula, just another tool. Stallone went further, caught years later with vials of synthetic HGH in his luggage, calling it a medical necessity. What began as bodybuilding chemistry quietly evolved into Hollywood business practice. And the blueprint they left behind, bigger, leaner, faster, became a contract every new generation would be forced to sign. The era of the natural hero was over. Now, the camera demanded something superhuman, and the man who would carry that legacy next would take it to an entirely new level. The Rock built an empire on discipline, drive, and a body that looks carved from another planet. But here's the part no one likes to talk about. That body isn't just a symbol of hard work. It's a marketing strategy worth billions. In his 50s, he still looks like a comic book creation. He swears it's clean, no steroids, no shortcuts. Yet insiders whisper something different. Actor Frank Grillo once said it flat out, "They all do it." Maybe The Rock isn't lying. Maybe he's simply part of a culture where denial is mandatory. Because admitting the truth would shatter the brand. Every movie, every supplement deal, every gym partnership depends on the illusion staying alive. The question isn't whether he uses, it's why every actor around him now feels forced to look the same. And the reason that pressure exists is far more interesting than you might think. What began as competition between a few muscle-bound icons has become the law of modern Hollywood. Today, no leading man is hired to look human. He's expected to look superhuman. Chris Hemsworth's 8-week Thor transformation, Cavill's Man of Steel diet, Gyllenhaal's overnight rebirth for Roadhouse. Each headline reads like a miracle. The body isn't an actor's choice anymore. It's a studio investment. There's no such thing as rest, no such thing as natural. They call it inspiration. The truth, it's expectation enforced by money, chemistry, and silence. The generation that grew up idolizing Stallone and Arnold has turned perfection into policy. Christian Bale once said he'd never do it again. After starving himself to 90 pounds for The Machinist and then gaining over 100 for Batman Begins, he admitted, "It's killing me." But Hollywood doesn't care if it kills you. It only cares that it looks good doing it. Every few years, a new extreme transformation goes viral. Jake Gyllenhaal, Matthew McConaughey, Jared Leto, even Brendan Fraser in his prime, each forced to prove commitment not through acting, but through physical suffering. When Mickey Rourke stepped into the ring for The Wrestler, critics called it a comeback. But for him, it was closer to a confession. To become that role, that broken man, Rourke admitted he turned to steroids. The results were undeniable. He said later it was a stupid mistake. The secret behind Hollywood's superhuman bodies isn't magic, it's chemistry. Steroids, human growth hormone, testosterone replacement therapy, each with a different name, but the same purpose: to create what nature can't. These compounds accelerate recovery, strip fat, swell muscle, and forge that impossible look cameras worship. And while the public calls it cheating, inside the industry, it's simply called preparation. Doctors monitor it, trainers normalize it, producers budget for it. It's not scandalous anymore, it's expected. Yet no one ever admits it. Because the illusion of natural sells more tickets than the truth ever will. And what's most disturbing isn't how it started. It's how deep the line now runs. Posting every lift for millions to watch. Actors like Mark Wahlberg brag about to 30 a.m. alarms. Chris Hemsworth markets his body through his own fitness empire. Jason Statham trains like a soldier in his 50s, afraid to show weakness. It's no longer about performance. It's about permanence, keeping the image alive even when the body is begging for rest. Hollywood calls it dedication. The truth? It's addiction dressed as discipline. And what happens when that addiction collides with chemistry is far more dangerous than anyone in this town wants to admit. Every system has a breaking point. For Hollywood's strongest men, that point comes quietly after the cameras stop rolling. Sylvester Stallone has undergone over a dozen surgeries, decades of punishment, torn muscles, joint replacements, the price of staying the man audiences demanded he be. Dolph Lundgren once admitted his years of steroid use might have contributed to the cancer he later battled. The same drugs that made him look invincible nearly destroyed him. Behind the smiles, the brand deals the impossible discipline, there's a growing emptiness. Depression, anxiety, dependency. Actors living inside characters they can't physically sustain. The pressure to stay shredded never switches off. Every time they relax, the internet notices. Every photo becomes a verdict. He's let himself go. And for men whose entire careers depend on how they look, that judgment cuts deeper than any surgery. Terry Crews once said, "I've never done steroids. I just train for 40 years. A rare confession of sanity in a culture that glorifies self-destruction. But even for the natural ones, the mental strain is the same. Always perform, never admit weakness, never age. Because in Hollywood's version of masculinity, fragility is fatal. And what happens when those expectations leave the studio and infect the audience might be the most dangerous consequence of all. What started in Hollywood didn't stay in Hollywood. The obsession escaped the screen, into gyms, into social media, into everyday life. Teenagers now chase superhero bodies before they've even finished growing. Fitness influencers sell powders and pills with movie star promises. And everywhere you look, people compare themselves to digital illusions built by entire production teams. Steroids, once whispered about in locker rooms, have become hashtags. Hollywood didn't just break its actors, it broke everyone who believed them. And the system fueling this illusion, the corporations behind every transformation headline, are making more money than ever. Behind every transformation story, there's a business contract. It's not just a film industry anymore. It's a fitness economy. And every time a star shows up looking bigger, leaner, more superhuman, the corporations behind them celebrate. Because the like keeps selling. The truth is, the drugs aren't the real addiction. There was a time when Hollywood worshipped performance, when character mattered more than calories and emotion mattered more than muscle. De Niro gained weight for Raging Bull because the role demanded it, not because Instagram did. Brando, Pacino, Nicholson, their power came from presence, not physique. But somewhere along the way, the camera forgot how to love imperfection. The age of actors gave way to the age of avatars. Today, every blockbuster lead looks identical, shredded, sculpted, chemically flawless. The stories may change, but the bodies don't. Hollywood doesn't cast for depth anymore, it casts for definition. And when art begins to imitate the gym mirror, storytelling dies a quiet death. Because you can't feel a performance that's been airbrushed. You can only admire it until you forget it. The illusion of the perfect body has now replaced the soul of cinema. Not everyone is willing to keep feeding the illusion. Hollywood's next evolution doesn't even require flesh and blood at all. Hollywood finally found a way to cheat death and effort. Today, they don't even need steroids. They can build perfection in post-production. De-aging filters, digital muscle mapping, AI skin textures, the new frontier of illusion. An actor doesn't have to risk his health anymore. He just has to lend his likeness. The same technology that saved stunt doubles is now replacing authenticity entirely. Muscles can be generated. Faces can be morphed, bodies can be bought. What began as chemistry has evolved into code. It's no longer about actors transforming themselves. It's about algorithms transforming them for us. And as visual perfection becomes infinite, the need for human effort disappears. The age of the human body is ending. The age of synthetic perfection has already begun. Hollywood has finally perfected the illusion. And in doing so, it's forgotten what reality looks like. The muscles got bigger. The faces got smoother. But the performances, they got emptier. For decades, the industry told us that perfection was progress, that every generation of heroes should look stronger, younger, leaner than the last. But perfection doesn't inspire anymore, it exhausts. Audiences can feel it's something hollow behind the shine. The emotion isn't real because the people inside these characters aren't allowed to be human. Steroids made Hollywood stronger. CGI made it flawless. And together, they made it soulless. What used to be a craft has turned into a contest. What used to be acting has turned into advertising. The icons who turned muscle into mythology. They built an empire out of sweat and steel, but they also built a curse. Every generation that followed tried to outgrow them. More shredded, more vascular, more perfect, until perfection became poison. The bodies that once symbolized power now stand as monuments to pressure. Actors forced to choose between relevance and survival, between being authentic or being employable. The industry doesn't ask who's the best actor anymore. It asks who looks the most unreal. Hollywood's strongest men are breaking, not from failure, but from trying to stay superhuman in a world that punishes humanity. The same dream that made them legends is the same dream that's destroying them. Because when illusion becomes identity, there's no way back. And what happens when the bodies finally give out? When the chemistry stops working? When the audience no longer believes the lie? That's when Hollywood's mirror finally cracks. Hollywood was built on dreams, but somewhere along the way, it started selling delusions. Steroids didn't just reshape bodies, they reshaped values. The pursuit of the perfect physique became a prison, locking actors inside expectations no one can meet, and teaching audiences to hate anything real. It began as vanity, it became addiction, and now it's become identity. The industry that once celebrated humanity now edits it out. One filter, one cycle, one surgery at a time. Hollywood didn't just kill authenticity, it replaced it with aesthetics. And if steroids destroyed its body, vanity is finishing off its soul. The truth is simple. Strength built on lies always collapses. But maybe, just maybe, the next generation can rebuild it. Not on perfection, but on honesty. Because what audiences crave now isn't another superhero. It's something far rarer. A real human being. Steroids may have built Hollywood's body, but honesty will decide if it still has a heart.